These liberal revolutions actually started in the United States at the end of the 18th century. So the United States didn't exist before. In America, in North America, there were people from Europe, colonies, and they created colonies. They were settlers from England, France, from Spain too, and they created different colonies. The most important ones in the east coast of the United States, what nowadays is the United States, they started settling there at the beginning of the 17th century. So here you can see a picture from the Mayflower. This is an important ship, a boat, where the first settlers from England came to America, to the United States. So they created settlements, and there they established settlements and with a different organization. But actually they had a relationship with their mother country, that was of course England. So this is what you can see. These are the 13 colonies at the end of the 18th century. They started being, here you can see, before 1755 there were British, English colonies, French colonies, Spanish colonies, and in Alaska Russian colonies. So there were different people from these different countries there. And later, at the end of the 18th century, most of the territory belonged to Spain and to France and to England, to Britain. So Britain established 13 different colonies, and these colonies increased their population a lot. Especially during the 18th century, the number of settlers, people, increased a lot, and they started producing a lot. The way of organizing was one governor, who actually he was a military ruler sent by Britain, and most of the colonies, they organized by themselves and they ruled by themselves. They created assemblies. Here you can see a picture about the first colonial assembly in Virginia. They created assemblies, and these assemblies took decisions about their different matters. Everything changed during 1756 and 1763. It happened, the 7 Years' War. This war was a war between France and England. So they fought in Europe, but they fought mainly in America. Because of that, the Britain established a permanent army there, and they commanded the settlers to create army and to pay for that army, to support this army. The problem for the settlers was that they had no representatives in the British Parliament. So, you know, in England there was a king, but it was a parliamentary monarchy. There was a parliament who controlled the king, but there weren't representatives from America. So all the legislation were created for British population in Britain, but not in America. So the settlers found out that they had to support an army to fight in a war, and actually to have no rights, no political rights at all. And all decisions about their land, important decisions, were taken in England, thousands of kilometers away. So after this war, the map of powers changed. So Spain was helping France, because the French king and Spanish king were members of the same dynasty. They were Bourbon, they were family. So they were fighting together against England, but they lost the war. This 7 Years' War was won by England, by Britain. So properties, territories, French territories in America were given to England, and part of them to Spain too. But France lost most of their territories in America. But the British colonies in America, actually now Americans, because they were living there for a lot of years, they asked to have representatives in the British Parliament. So, and they started saying, okay, if you want us to pay taxes, okay, we will pay taxes, that's okay, but we want to be members of the parliament. So we want to take political decisions. If not, we don't pay taxes. That's logical. So today we pay taxes because we get services from the state. So We pay taxes, and then we get education, we get healthcare, streets, roads, water, light, electricity, whatever. But if we receive nothing, we shouldn't pay. And in America, settlers are saying that we produce everything we need, we support the army we have here, our people are members of the army, and we pay taxes to the king, to Britain, but we receive nothing. So they started this slogan, no taxation without representation. If we are not the members of the parliament, we don't pay taxes. The king, George, said, I don't care. So he said, you must obey and you must pay taxes. And that's all. And British Parliament agreed, because they are not interested in what's happening in America. They want only money and raw materials from America. And everything started, the biggest problem happened when one company, one British company, the British East Indian Company, they started selling tea. You know, this British like drinking tea at 5 o'clock, mister. They started selling tea in America. The problem is that it's a monopoly. This company has the monopoly. That means all the settlers must buy this tea from this company. They cannot buy this tea from other companies, from Spanish or French or Holland companies. They must buy from this British company. And then they revolted. They made an uprising, and 16th December 1773 they made it's called the Tea Party. It wasn't a party, it was like a fight, and actually they destroyed all the cargos, the tea cargos in the that was in boats. These boats were attacked, and they destroyed all the tea. It was a way of saying, we don't buy your tea, or we don't want to buy your tea, so we destroyed this. And then of course a conflict started, because the king sent a part of the army to punish this uprising. Of course, the settlers met. That was the first Continental Congress, to decide what are we going to do, because we are at war with our mother country, actually. The representatives of these colonies, they met in Philadelphia, and they agreed to declare independence. So they didn't come into an agreement with England. The King, George III, he wanted obedience, just obedience. You cannot revolt against your king. So they declared, okay, then we are going to be completely independent. We are going to create a new country. So they declared their independence and called us the United States of America. Of course, the British government rejected this decision. They said you don't have the right to be completely independent. So they sent a new army, and a war started. It was called the Independence War, the American Independence War. The new states now sent delegates to a new Congress. This is the Second Continental Congress. In 1775, they met in Philadelphia again, and then they not only declared their independence, but they drafted, they established the principles of a constitution, how they are going to be ruled, if they are going to choose a king or not, or whatever. So they started a declaration of independence, but they established too a constitution. And one of the most important achievements were the Declaration of Rights, issued by Thomas Jefferson. This Declaration of Rights, they say what they want to be, how they want to their new country, this new United States of America, how are they going to work, and how are people. So the war was a long war, and British settlers, these new states, were helped by France and Spain, because you know France and Spain are the enemies of Britain. So they decided, okay, we help these former British colonies against Britain, so we weakened Britain. That is our main objective, our goal. So the United States Independence War lasted for several years, and when it was over, you can see here, these are the empires at the end of the 18th century. So you see Spain has a big empire, but you see Britain is now one of the most important empires. So all the larger territories from the British Empire are in America. So, and these are the territories that are going to got their independence. So after the Saratoga battle and Yorktown battle, actually, and thanks to the leadership of George Washington, finally the United States achieved their independence. So they won the war, and in 1783 they signed a treaty in Paris. It was called the Peace of Paris, and according to this one, the British Empire accepted the creation of the new country. They accepted the United States independence. Let's take a view of the Constitution, the United States Constitution. This is the first constitution, and this constitution that is today is the constitution that is working. They have exactly the same constitution with a lot of amendments, with reforms, but it's their constitution. This constitution started like that. It's very important. We, the people of the United States, so they explain how they are going to be. So they decided this. There is a separation of. So we can see, according to this constitution, the power is divided into three powers. It is a republic. Their system of government is a federal republic. So it's a country made of different states, federate states. It's a federation. And legislative power is chosen by people. There's a Congress. There is a judicial power. Both of them are controlling each other, and the executive power is controlled by the president of the government. The president of the United States is chosen by people, the population, using a universal male suffrage. This universal male suffrage is considering only white men. That means the Indians and former or slaves, African slaves, black people, they are not considered equally. So this universal male suffrage is not actually universal. The United States grew up very, very fast. You can see here from the original 13 colonies, they expanded westwards, and they acquired new territories by occupying, by annexation in a war against Mexico. They annexed Texas in different ways, acquiring new territories. The most important thing is this difference, this difference between different sectors of population. The first president of the United States was George Washington, the main general during the Independence War. He was the first president in 1789, and years later, next century, during the 19th century, these inequalities, these problems led to a civil war. It's called in Spanish the Guerra de Secesión, because different states from south, these green states in the map, they chose to create a new United States, a new country, and that led to a war. So the northern states were opposed to the southern states. Northern states were specialized in industry and creating products to export, and southern states were focused on agriculture, and they produced agricultural products using slaves, African slaves. So one is an industrial area and another one is the agriculture area. In the middle there are a few states that at the beginning they didn't know what to do, and later, depending on the development of the war, they joined the southern states. Finally, the war was won by northern states, and the president of the northern states, Abraham Lincoln, was the one who used the liberation, the freedom of all the slaves, and he abolished the slavery in the United States.